This is Hope and Karen again with Young Lions, and today Karen has a topic for us.
Yeah, so I'm just going to talk about that famous story about Jesus being in the storm, but then I'm going to relate it a bit to my testimony. So actually, I'll just start with my testimony.
Sure.
So basically, I think about 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, there was Pastor Sammy Robinson that came over. Was that 2 weeks ago? I think it was 2 weeks ago. But
yeah, it was,
basically, he came over to our church at Abundant Life, and he prayed over us, but before he had like a word of knowledge. And for those of you who don't know what a word of knowledge is, it's basically when you God speaks to someone about you, and so basically he was in the front stage, and he was like, does anybody here have a family with a lot of witchcraft in it? And then if you know my family, that's a huge case. And then and it's not even my immediate family, but it's like
not using but like experiencing witchcraft.
No, they do witchcraft too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's some witches in my family. Anyways.
Okay, anyway. Yeah, I didn't know that.
No, they're crazy with it. So then after he's like, and you wake up with these scars on your body a lot from like nightmares. And then I rose up and I said, oh yeah, that's me. And I've been going through that for the past 12 years of my life. Right. And it was such a hard thing to get to people to understand, because some people are like, oh, maybe like, you know, it's the scratches you have, like you create those scratches on yourself at night, like you scratch yourself probably really hard. I'm like, no,
victim blaming. Okay.
I'm like, no, this is something, and I understand because it sounds weird to some people, but I'm like, no, this is something spiritual. And then I don't even know if you know like acrylic nails, because we used to have that all the time. Yeah. But back in the time, I used to have acrylic nails all the time, and that thing does not scratch you. Like you could scratch yourself as hard as you can, but it won't leave any scars as deep as the ones I would have. And I'd have on my back, I'd have them everywhere. So it definitely couldn't have been me.
Right.
And so like people were calling, like doctors were saying, I didn't even go to the doctor, but my friends would go to the doctor and be like, oh, maybe you have a sleeping disorder or something. I'm like, no, this is something way deeper than what you think. So I kind of left it at that. And then when Sammy Robinson prayed over me, he had said that I was going to enter the best sleeps of my life. Like
oh!
Yeah.
I feel like I was there for that.
I don't think you were there for that. Were you?
Or I heard it.
I think you heard
Probably
it.
from my mom.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. So then, no, Avery was there though. So then after that, I went back home and I slept like a baby. Like I slept so well. And I haven't slept like that for the past, like I said, 12 years, because I've been having this on a constant go.
Yeah.
And then after 3-4 days
of being able to sleep well?
Being able to sleep well, I had an attack again, and I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And I remember in the morning waking up and feeling so devastated that I had it, because I'm like, I don't want to go through this another like 12 years of my life. I can barely sleep, which is kind of half of the reason why I actually had to leave school, because it was getting so bad. And so I was like, okay, like what's gonna happen? And I was just tired of operating on 2 hours of sleep. So then after that, I was just reading some Bible verse or something, but I remember like God speaking to me that morning that I was really devastated, and saying like he had given me the authority and given me the power. And I remember thinking back, okay, so what did I do before sleeping? And usually there's this pattern before I would get attacked, and it's like this anxious power where I'm actually letting the devil get a hold of my thoughts, instead of me purposely removing those thoughts and like substituting with something else. Yeah. Maybe like listening to Bible verses, or like reciting Bible, instead of reciting Bible verses in my head, instead of conquering them, I'd just get really tired and just kind of let those thoughts go. Yeah. And then I'd get attacked, and I realized that was actually a pattern for the past 12 years. Yeah. And so after that, I started applying the Word of God, and I started seeing like even a more deep, peaceful sleep after those, after being devastated and everything. Yeah. So for the past like 2 weeks, I've been applying that. And I've been realizing how much power God gave me, right? Yeah. Like how much power and authority God actually gave his daughters and sons. And so a lot of times you would think, okay, well, because it was Pastor Sammy Robinson, or because it was this, or because it was that, because I have to wait for this very miracle move. But really, gives us that power and he gives us that authority.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I realized that, I was actually I would say even more terrified, because you realize your responsibility that you have now and you can't really blame it.
Yeah.
And then today I was reading Mark 4, which is what I actually want you to read.
Oh yeah, do you want me to read it right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Read it first,
it's basically about Jesus calming the storm. So I just want you to read a bit about that and then I'll explain.
Sure. So this is Mark 4 verses 35 to 41. So that it's called Jesus Calms the Storm, although you already said it. But I'm like, I guess I'll say that. That day when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side."
Mm-hmm.
Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was, in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall, I hope that's the word, came up, and the waves broke over the boat, so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?"
Mm-hmm.
He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?"
Mm-hmm.
They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him."
Yeah. So I found it interesting how I found myself kind of in the disciples' place in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you saw before the storm, they were terrified, right? And then even after the storm, they were terrified about God's power, you know?
Yeah, that's
and
true.
And so even before I got healed and delivered from all these attacks and stuff, I was super terrified of sleeping. It's a different terror that we're talking about, because the second terror is like reverence for God, like the respect you have for God and his power.
Fear of God, and it says that we are to fear God, but it doesn't mean like be scared he's gonna kill us.
No.
It's like,
but then the first
the
one,
reverence
exactly.
You said,
And so just knowing that, hey, God has given me the power to conquer these things. There's some, like, even it's always in his word, but to actually see that, oh, God has given me this power and I can actually stop these things from happening to me, and to step into that is also terrifying. And so that's kind of just what I want to talk about. Have you ever found yourself in that position where you're like, oh, this is, God has given me the power and I actually have seen this, and this is getting, it's a bit terrifying, but.
I mean, like, maybe.
Yeah.
Normally in my dreams, I would say, like, something will happen in my dream, and normally in my dreams, I'm kind of scared about what's happening. Like, I've had a lot of night terror stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I would pray in my dream, or I would speak in tongues in my dream, and I'd be like, oh, it's not working. But I was already expecting it not to work. So then in the dream, it wasn't working. And then I had a moment, like maybe 2 months ago, where I spoke in tongues in my dream, and I cut off the head of a snake. And I went, what the heck? Because I was shocked, because normally in my dreams, I would like just expect that it wouldn't work. So then for this time, it actually worked. I went, what? Like, that was crazy. That like, it was God's power that did it, but it was through me, and I was shocked that happened. Like, even though it was in a dream, I went, oh, that means I can do that in real life. Like, it was showing the change in my thinking and being like, oh, I actually do have authority over these things, and I don't have to let them just happen to me.
Yeah, which is a huge thing, because you think, oh, I should let this happen to me. Or honestly, sometimes being the victim is easier than acknowledging that you have the responsibility to overcome this. That's
true.
And so for 12 years, I was a victim of something, and now overnight I'm realizing, oh, wait, I have this responsibility. And so it's so much, because sometimes I just got comfortable. I'm like, you know what? Well, it's happening to you. What more can I do? You know what I mean? And so, but that's now it's kind of like, okay, well, there's a lot more I can do, and I need to step into that. So yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah. And we know that we have the authority because in the Bible it said, Jesus was talking to the disciples, and he said, greater things you will do than me, or whatever way he said it. He basically said, we will do better things, or like more than he did while he was on the earth. So then we know that he's given us that authority. And even with Adam and Eve, God gave them the world to look over and to rule over.
Dominion
and
over.
we're descendants of them. So then
Right.
that also applies to us. And now that we have Holy Spirit, we are able to do what God did or what Jesus did while he was on the earth. So then that's how we know that we have authority. And that's why when we see Jesus calm the storm, we're allowed to do that as well. So I think that's really good, though, even just to change your mindset and say, okay, I'm no longer a victim. I actually have things I can do. So now it's through me instead of things happen to me.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah. You want to end it?
Yeah, I was going to, but
Sure.
thank you guys for watching. If you want to go and watch other videos, the link
It's
will be
the link will be at the end of the video, and it's on Abundant Life Ministries Facebook page and the website now.
Yeah.
So it'll all be linked at the end. But thanks for listening.